When did you know what your mission was?
You know, Irvin, I knew what my mission was when I was talking to a friend and he said, "Thank you. Thank you so much." And it was a heartfelt thank you. And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Man, I was about to do something stupid. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And you made me laugh." He said, "You are so crazy, man. You made me, I was furious." And come to find out, he found out that his wife was cheating on him. And he said that he was not going to experience that pain by himself. He's going to kill her, he was going to kill her lover, and he was going to kill himself. And he heard my voice. And he said, "Thank you. Thank you so much." And we both cried. I knew that God used me in a special way. I believe that we all have a calling. Everybody can't hear me. There's some of you that hear me in your ears, but there's some of you who can hear me in your heart. There's some of you who just know, I'm supposed to do this. People have complimented you on you. You've always helped people, and you're always looking and for opportunities to give people advice and to share with them the experiences you've gone through and say, "Hey, you got this. You're stronger than this. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world." See, God ain't dead. God is in the midst of all this stuff. All this stuff. And there's something in you. All things work together for good, for those who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. There's something in you. Come on now. There's a calling in you. Can you tell I feel real good? Now you wonder, what he got in there? Is that what's in here? I'm going to tell you what. Just keep this under your hat. I have a friend. I'm not going to tell you her name is Madeline Haddock. She fixed some special cookies for me. Some special cookies with THC. She said, "You take this, you gonna get a good night's sleep. Do you hear me?" She did not lie. I don't know. I had to break them up because the first time I ate a whole one all by myself, then I saw myself on a merry-go-round and all these different colors and everything. And I said, "What's going on up in here? Up in here?" I wasn't at Disneyland. I was in my room. Woo! So some say, don't do the whole thing. Don't do the whole thing. You're not used to this kind of stuff here. Just do half of it. I don't know what she put in there, but it's so good. Let me tell. So what I do, I space it out. I start at 9 o'clock. I eat half at 9 o'clock. And then around 10 o'clock, my Alexa alerts me. And then I do the other half. And then I go to bed and I wake up the next morning, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and crazy. Because when you get a good night's sleep, there's nothing like a good night's sleep. Do you hear me? I could hurt somebody if I don't get a good night's sleep. There's nothing like a good night's sleep. I'm telling you. I ain't making this up. I'm telling you. I said, you know what? We need to package this baby. You know? Les Brown's Get a Good Night's Sleep formula. Cookies that help you sleep through the night and wake up giving motivational messages. Yes, I can. And yes, I will. Okay, so look here. I want you right now. I want, how many people? 7 is my lucky number. I want 21 people to go to lesbrown.com. 21 people. Go to lesbrown.com. Sign up for my new program. 21 people. And I'm going to work with you. They say every 2 weeks. No, every week. You can ask me questions. And I'm going to share with you how to tell your story. You're going to have access. You know, access is power. Come on, somebody. Access is power. You're going to talk to me. And there's some things that's in you. The reason that you're listening to me now is because what I'm saying, you don't just hear it in your ear. It's in you. It's in your heart. I'm telling you what I know. I'm going to share something to you. Some of you have seen this. Some of you have not. Please, Tola, play it, please.
And I just discovered my birth parents. Here I am, 77. I just saw for the first time a picture of my mother and my father. Wow, I've never seen that before. And so that's a major disruption. Two brothers that I didn't know I had. That's a major disruption. So I'm still processing that. We talked about the last few weeks.
Here I am, my 77th year on the planet. And now I find out, God said, I got something for you.
My second cousin showed me a video of my mother speaking, which I've probably watched about 56 times. It was disarming. I just said, you know, Mamie Brown, who adopted me, you know, my birth mother, she gave me life, but Mamie Brown, who adopted me, she taught me how to live life.
I had always wanted to see a picture of my mother or father, and always wanted to meet someone who knew them. Now I have pictures and met people who knew them and sharing stories. But I did not realize how much and how important that was to me. I did not allow myself to recognize that hunger part of my life because I didn't think it would ever happen.
I went down to Gainesville, Georgia, and as many of you know, I connected with my birth family. And yesterday, this time, I was seated on the porch on a bench that my birth mother, Dorothy Rucker, built this house. They said she had a saw and a hammer. A saw and a hammer, and she built this house. And I was there to visit the Beulah Rucker Museum. My grandmother, who was a motivational speaker, and Dorothy Bell Rucker, who was a motivational speaker.
Collard green, I declare them good old collard green, good and breezy. Collard green, I declare them good old collard green. First you put them in a pot, then you steam them good and hot. them good old collard greens.
We're at the Beulah Park Museum. It's 40 acres. When my mother graduated from Savannah State College, she purchased 200 acres of land at 50 cents an acre. Okay? And she worked hard. I'm excited about this, and I've been reflecting and doing a lot of thinking. It's a new narrative for my life. I now have to begin to ask the question, what am I to do with this?
I and my brother, we were a secret.
Wow.
This thing called life.
Did you care to know why they put you up for adoption, or?
Oh, I knew why she did. She was married.
Okay.
And her husband was away in World War II.
Gotcha.
So she had to get rid of us before he came back.
Boy, them country secrets be different, don't they? them down South Dirt Road secrets, boy. Lord
No, they're everywhere. And so it was disarming to see her, to see our mannerisms. There's certain that are taught and some things are caught. And you do things and you don't, there's some things I call, it can't help it. That you can't help it. It's just who you are. Yeah. It's in you. And you've got to do it. You are driven. You were chosen to do it.
Sometimes you don't know you're missing something until you find it.
She's a pioneer, education pioneer, hard worker. This says, I've had to sacrifice time both day and night to light a torch of instruction, which I hope will cause the public to see the purpose of this much needed institution. The Rugged Pathway, Beulah Rucker, 1953. I was 8 years old. My birth mother, Dorothy Bell Rucker, has created a new narrative for me. When I had my talk show, my radio show, I would say, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. Now I have to say, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy and Dorothy Bell Rucker's pride and joy. I've got two mothers and I'm not ashamed. I've got two mothers and I love them just the same. And so I now have an expanded narrative about who I am and what caused me to become the kind of person I am, because Dorothy Bell Rucker was a motivational speaker, teacher, educator, and Beulah Rucker, who had a relationship with Mary McLeod Bethune, she was an educator, she was a motivational speaker. They have a museum in her name, the Beulah Rucker Museum in Gainesville, Georgia. And so that's the lineage that I came out of, that I had no clue, that I was not aware of.
At this stage of my life, it has fired up my hunger to make a greater impact. I want to be like my grandmother and my mother, as well as Mamie Brown, to make my life count through people, as my mother Mamie Brown did, my adopted mother, and my birth mother. I want to have an impact on people's lives, a greater impact. And I know even at 77, I still got the juice.
Have you ever had moments of breakthroughs that you said, you know what? I need to share this. And I want you to like this page and share it. For some reason, I don't know why, but things have been dropping into my spirit that just accessing parts of myself for some time, that because of the busyness of life, and I allowed it to get in, that I couldn't hear my voice, that voice in my heart. And I think that I was listening to too many voices and caught up in other folks' stuff. Can you feel me up in here, as young folks say, can you feel me? And so I've been intentionally putting distance between me and the majority of people, including family, just to get still and to think and to hear myself think. Because sometimes you can get so caught up in other people's stuff, you neglect your stuff. And so I want to share something with you. And my message is not for everybody. My message is just for a few people, not for large numbers of people. Large numbers of people, even though they can benefit from what I say, but I'm not their guy. They're not my tribe. I'm talking to the people who can hear me and can understand me and can relate to me and connect with me and identify with me because of my approach. My approach is different. I'm listening to a lot of these entertainers and athletes, and there's so many people out here that just can't speak without foul language. There's no filter between their brains and their mouth. And I just can't open my mind to that. A guy wanted me to put together, and when I started looking at it, within 1 minute, I had to stop. And I called him, I said, man, I can't listen to your stuff. He said, why not? I said, the language is too filthy. I don't want to give up territory in my mind for that. There's some stuff you just got to guard your mind and your heart, that you don't need it in your system. It matters. The words that are spoken to you and the words that you speak and the things that you listen to. You think it's any accident? When you look at young people today and their propensity for vulgar language and violent behavior, you think that's an accident? No, absolutely not. So this is for the few, and I want you to like this page and share it. If you know anybody who's heard my voice and they got some value of what I shared, please. And so I want to share some thoughts with you, and they're not going to be long. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about something that's very important to you, something that you'd like to do with your life, something that you would like to accomplish, and that gives your life a sense of meaning and purpose. I want you to think about that right now. I want to share with you, this is my mother, Mamie Brown. And so she took my brothers and sisters and I in as foster kids, and then eventually she adopted us. My brother and I, my twin brother, we were conceived in Gainesville, Georgia. Our birth mother was Dorothy Rucker and Doc Oliver Randolph. And so she came down to Liberty City in Miami to give birth to us and put us up foster care. And so my goal and vision was, that gave my life a sense of meaning and purpose, was I told Mama, what is it, Leslie? When I become a man, I'm gonna buy you a home.
As you think about your goals and dreams, I want you to write this down. You don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. I was talking to a friend of mine, single mother of 2, and she has 4 different jobs. Spent the majority of her time in her life investing in herself, developing herself, and positioning herself to be able to take care of her children and to live a larger life to provide for them and herself. And it's important that you have some purpose with your life, as mine was in buying my mother a home, but I want you to write this down. Sacrifice. That when Mamie Brown, my adopted mother, always say when I speak, God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. That was a sacrifice for her. Her life changed. At 46, she took in 7 kids that she didn't give birth to. And Mama was attractive. Mama had the ability to sing. She had all types of talents. But when she said to Mr. Moss, our godfather, yes, I'll take him, because our birth mother, thank God, Dorothy Bell Rucker, didn't want Wesley and I separated, and nobody wanted to adopt twins. But Mamie Brown said, I'll take both of them. And her life changed. I remember Mr. Moss said when he was driving Mama back from Liberty City to Overtown in Miami, and she was looking at the 2 of us, and tears of gratitude rolling down her cheeks as she was so thankful that she now for the first time had children in her life, that she could share life with kids. She never had any children herself, and she always wanted a child, and she told everybody. And then when our birth mother, Dorothy Bell Rucker and Oliver Randolph, they wouldn't receive them at Jackson Memorial Hospital. I'm 79, so at that time, Jackson Memorial Hospital was not receiving colored people or Negroes. And so they went in an abandoned building, and she gave birth to us on a floor, but she went into labor. And so my mother, Mamie Brown, her life changed. When you have a goal and dream, something you've set your sight on that you want to achieve, trust me, you got to ask yourself, what are you willing to give up? When I wanted to speak, when I decided I was going to buy Mama a home, and I decided that this is the area that I wanted to plant my feet, and something that gave my heart and my spirit and my soul a joy that passeth all human understanding. I love communication, and so I became a disc jockey, and I used to be involved in sales. I was a salesman at Sears in the men's department. But communication, I love working with people and interacting with people. I had a training seminar here in Atlanta, and this past weekend I said, there's one thing to do a Zoom, but when you're in the room with me, when I get up in your face, let me tell you something, up in here. It was riveting and powerful. Once you think about something that you love so much, you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. I just talked to someone this morning, and I said, I decline to have you as a client. And so she said, why? I said, I want to work with people that this is who they are. You want to dabble in this place. I want to work with people who have the mindset that they got to work, that they have got to do. There's something that's in them, that they've got to do it. And there's a work that them not doing it is not an option. I have got to speak. This is what I do. And so this is who I want to work with, those kinds of people. And so I want you to think about that work that you have got to do, that feeds your soul and spirit. 80% of people are going to jobs that they hate. When Friday comes, they say, thank God it's Friday.
I want you to think about something that you can do 7 days a week. It's you, and you never go to work a day in your life because it resonates with your heart and your spirit and your soul. Now here's something else. Listen to me clearly. And this is not going to be easy. You got to come out from among the people that you're around right now. When you have goals and dreams and you're around people that don't have goals and dreams, it rubs off on you. It rubs off. It affects you. One goose can fly 75% further in formation with other geese than it can never fly by itself. I'm creating something called the Live Your Greatest Life community. A place where people, everyday people, with the mindset of goals and dreams and something they want to do with their lives. I saw these guys, you've seen those groups, you've seen on the internet where people get on, groups of guys get on one side and sometimes women participate and they crack on each other and talk about each other's mother or just all type of stuff like that. I said, wow. I said, what if we did something like that where people are talking about their goals and their dreams and we're encouraging each other. We're bringing out the best in each other. And so I don't criticize people who do that, but I said, I'm watching them. I want them to watch me. That evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. And so my goal is to be accessible and build a community with like-minded people who have goals and dreams, people who love the power presentation, people who would love to learn how to tell their story, people who want to make a difference, people who like the positive energy that brings out the best in them. Those are the types of communities that I want to be in and that I'm going to create and do it nationally as well as locally and around the globe. And so when I look at my life and people ask, how did you get there? How did you go from your twin brother and you eating sugar cane and raised in poverty in the segregated South, very oppressive culture that's designed to destroy your sense of self and dismiss you and demean you and demonize you? How did you go from that to speaking to people around the world? One of the first things is I had to become aware of who I was and what I wanted and the must-haves. There are a lot of people that are happy and satisfied with where their life is. But I didn't like where I was and I wanted more. And I was willing to make the sacrifice, to do the work, to invest in myself, to do whatever was necessary in order for me to become the kind of person that I could achieve my goals. Because at the end of the day, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. And there's truly no competition. Bob Proctor, God bless his soul, he said that most people are where they are now because they're ignorant. I said, whoa, that's harsh, but it's real. That they're not willing to learn, they're not to upgrade their ability to learn new things. At this stage of my life, I'm learning something new every day. Today, I'm focusing on how to post. Why, Les? You're 79. I know. And if you don't use it, you lose it. This is my anti-dementia program, my anti-Alzheimer's program, my anti-assisted living program, my anti-nursing home program, my anti-caregiver program. I care for myself. I can do for myself. And so I'm challenging myself. I still have not done my best work. I've got friends who are younger than me and they're already through. Well, that's not me. That's none of my business. I met this man who changed my life, Leroy Washington. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about this morning. He has 2 sons and 2 daughters. They never saw the man that I saw. He was a speech and drama teacher at Booker T. Washington High School in Miami. They never saw him. Isn't that interesting? They never saw. He impacted my life. He was more of a father to me, and I got more from him than the children that he brought into this world because they never saw him. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone and it started going south because they never saw you? They thought that you were someone else. They underestimated who you were, and so they never saw it. I remember one time being in a restaurant on 7th Avenue and 62nd Street in Miami, and one of his sons had a waitress to come to the table and said, your son is outside, he'd like to talk to you. And he went outside to talk to his son. When he came back in, and I asked him, I said, hi, what was going on? Is it an emergency? He said, no, he wanted to borrow $15. And this man who was the father that I never had, this man who did not know I adopted him as my spiritual father, I was sitting there having lunch with him, talking about the impact that he made on my life, watching him just signed a contract for $5 million. His son outside calling him to come outside to borrow $15 from him. He never knew who his father was. To this day. And there are people around you who don't know you, who don't see you. They have this antiquated old history about you, and that person that they know, that person's gone, they're died. There are people who see me and say, whoa, Les, I can't believe it's you. Yeah, I understand, because the person that you once knew, he doesn't live here anymore. And there are people that you've been in relationship with or used to kick it with or party with, and they see you or you see them, and they're totally different. Totally different.
How can people develop a hunger in themselves, and why is it so important?
I was downtown with my mother. I was around 5 years old. And my mother, she adopted altogether. She took in foster kids, 7, and I was one among the 7. Then she adopted us. I let go of her hand. It was about 95 degrees downtown Miami. And I ran up to a water fountain and I started drinking. And all of a sudden I felt her hand. She said, don't you ever do that again. She snatched me down. And she began to punch me in the face and the head. It just beating me fiercely like she didn't know me. I said, Mama, it's me, Mama, it's me. And then a white policeman came over and he had a billy club and he was hitting it in his hand. He said, okay, you can let that little nigger boy go now. I won't have to do it. And he looked at me with my busted lip and my eyes swollen and started laughing as he walked away. That'll teach you. And my mother, as she helped me up, she began to cry. I was crying because of the pain of the punches and the blows. She was crying because she beat her baby boy. I said, Mama, why did you beat me like that? She said, when I saw that white policeman's face turn red and he gripped his nightstick and he was coming towards you to hit you, I had to think fast and do something to distract him. Because had he hit you, Wesley, he would have had to kill me. And I did the best thing that I knew how. I'm so sorry, son. I'm so sorry. Mama, love you. I didn't mean to beat you like that. I said, Mama, it didn't hurt that badly. And so, you know, doing it when you're a kid, mothers kissed the part to make it well. I said, right here, I got the one out there. She would kiss it. I said, I got another one over here. She said, just shut up. I knew then I was living in a different world. I got to tell you this, I have never talked about this publicly. I worked for a guy named Joe. And Joe was really fond of me, and I admired him. And I used to do odd jobs for him. And he invited me to his house during the time Now, mind you, I'm 75, so segregation is in the South. And this is unusual, and he invited me. He wanted me to know that he was liberal, invited me to his house to have dinner. So he introduced me to his wife, and then his son came over, and his daughter-in-law, and their little girl named Alice. And I spoke to all of them. And so Alice, she was around 5, and she came around, and I said, hello, Alice. She said, hi. And then she came around and she came behind me. And all of a sudden I felt something behind me, at the bottom of the chair. She was moving her hand below my butt. I said, Alice, what are you doing? And she said, where is it? I said, where's what? Where's your tail? And I looked at Joe and his wife and his son and daughter-in-law. I said, I clipped it off. She said, why? I said, because when I sat down, it would hurt. What'd you do with it? I said, just threw it away. She said, will it grow back? I said, no. Oh, and then she was just so disappointed. She stomped to her chair and she sat down. She said, you shouldn't have cut it off. I was waiting to see it when Grandpa said that you were coming for dinner. I said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And we went on to have dinner. Eric, as we were having dinner, she continued to talk and asked me different questions about my tail. How long I had it? How long did it take it to grow? I said, it didn't take very long. I said, I had it since I was born. And I'm trying to hold a conversation with a little 5-year-old, and they are about to go under the table. Their faces look red as cherries. And so when I got ready to go, she said, I'm not going to forgive you for clipping off your tail. I said, I'm sorry, Alice. Had I known you would want to see it, I would not have clipped it off. I'm so sorry. And so I said, bye, everybody, but she would not say bye to me. She just looked away like, you cut your tail off. Don't say bye to me. And so when we got in the car, Joe was driving me home, and the car was very silent. And by the time we got to my street, he started to say something, and I said, Joe, it's okay. It's okay. So you take care. And he drove off. And I sat down on my doorstep and I cried because I thought I knew this guy. I thought he was my friend. I had no idea that he had taught his granddaughter how to damn tail. I was so hurt, Eric. I had to collect myself to go before going in the house. And Mama said, Leslie, you all right? I said, no, man, Mama, what's wrong? I said, nothing. How's Joe? I said, he's doing real good. And I wouldn't tell her because I knew that would have broke her heart. And that night, I was just thinking about how, signs that I'd seen on Miami Beach, Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed. And I remember asking my mother, why do they hate us so badly? And she said, Leslie, I don't know, but don't you ever be like them. Do you hear me? Don't you ever be like them. God is love. The scripture says God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. And I made a commitment. I'm Mamie Brown's baby boy, to live a life of love. That how you feel about me, Eric, is none of my spiritual business. It's how I feel about myself that's most important. And everybody don't operate at that level of consciousness, but it created a fierceness in me. I knew there were two worlds, and it's a hunger to take care of my mother
the hunger to provide for her, the hunger to buy her a home. It gave birth to that hunger. Hearing my mother having to clap her hands when she went into another room to look for a hat from Miss Harris. Miss Harris, how you doing? Great. Mamie, do you see it? No, I don't. Mama, what is it, Leslie? Why are you clapping your hands? Don't you worry about it. You just do what you're supposed to do. Miss Harris said, clean the spots off the floor. She came out, I don't see it, Miss Harris. Go in the other room, Mamie. She went in the other room. Mama started clapping her hands again. Mama, why are you clapping your hands? Didn't I tell you, boy, to do what you're supposed to do? Miss Harris came over to me. I can tell you why she's clapping her hands. Because when I have colored people looking for something and I can't see them, I make them clap their hands to make sure they're not stealing. I dropped a washcloth, and during this time, you weren't allowed to look white people in the eyes. I looked her in the eyes and I said, my mother is not a thief. She would not steal from you or anybody. She's not a thief. Then I got back down and I started scrubbing that floor and slinging water everywhere, tears coming out of my eyes. On the way back to Overtown in Liberty City on the bus, I wasn't talking. She said, Leslie, yes ma'am, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm mad. She said, why? I want to be a man. Why? You'll be a man soon enough. I said, no, I want to be a man now. She said, why? I said, if I was a man, you would never cook for anybody but us. If I was a man, we would not have to eat food left over from the families that you cook for. If I was a man, we would not have to wear hand-me-down clothes that somebody else has worn for a year. And if I was a man, nobody will make you clap your hands because they think that you're stealing. She said, Miss Harris told you that, didn't she? I said, yes, ma'am. And I just turned and looked out the window. And she said, Leslie, it's gonna be all right, son. That gave birth, Eric, a hunger in me. That nobody would ever make my mother clap her hands again because they think that she's stealing. That my mother, one day, because of my becoming actively engaged in the fight that people are doing right now, that kids would not get the hell beat out of them because they drank from a water fountain that said for whites only. That's why I use radio to bring about social justice, and it caused me to be the person that I am. It created a hunger to create a better world. It created a hunger to live a life that will outlive me. That's why I train speakers to become messengers of hope, because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present, and get people to live out of their imagination rather than their education and their indoctrination, and help them to have an expanded vision of who we are and how we can show up in life. So you asked the question, be careful what you ask for, because you just
I'm
might
glad.
get it.
I mean, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. I've known you for, what, 25 years? Something
At
like
least.
that? Yeah,
Over
I've known you a
30
long
years.
time. And some of these stories I've never heard.
And my stories and my history is right. Notice I said help people live out of their imagination and not out of history. My history has never interfered with our relationship.
Right. I've never felt it. I've never felt anger. I've never felt bitterness. I've never felt division. You know, even though we're different ages, we're different colors. You know, we grew up in different circumstances.
I never would have known that if you hadn't told me. We're salt and pepper, and I'm sorry.
Right?
You do something, though, that a lot of people wish or hope that they could do. So I want to talk about how you got there, right? Because we all come from somewhere, come from something. Where's home? Where are you from? Give us the origin story.
I was conceived in Gainesville, Georgia, but I was born in Miami, Florida. My birth mother, I just discovered, here I am, 78, and I just discovered, if people go online and see the Les Brown surprise, 2021 surprise, that my birth mother and father, they were from Gainesville, Georgia. So when she became pregnant, she decided, because Gainesville is such a small town, to come down to Miami and to give birth to me and my twin brother. We became foster kids. She gave us to Mrs. Mamie Brown. Whenever I speak, I always say, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother, that God took me out of my biological mother's womb and put me in the heart of my adopted mother. And so that's how I ended up in Liberty City. We were born in an abandoned building on a floor. Jackson Memorial Hospital at that time in Miami did not receive black kids or black people. And so we ended up, they were driving around and she started having labor pains, the rumor goes, and they saw this abandoned building and went in and gave birth to us.
Growing up, I wanted to be an attorney. What did you aspire to be growing up?
I wanted I had a compelling urge to want to take care of my mother, because Mama adopted my twin brother and I, and she never had any children herself, and she adopted 5 other kids. So we were first foster children, and then we became adopted. And I decided very young, seeing how hard she worked as a single mother, I said, I'm going to take care of you, Mama, when you get older. And when I become a man, I'm gonna buy your home, and you'll never ever pay another bill, because I believe that I'm old school. And I asked her, when will I be a man? She said, when you turn 18. I said, when I turn 18, you'll never pay another bill. And my mother, the way she raised us, my brothers and I, she said, if your wife has a job and a husband too, one of them's got to go. So I said, you won't have to worry about that anymore. I got you.
Where does that confidence come from? I imagine from her, right? But
yes. Well, I learned from my mother. She was so relentless and unstoppable. She went through a whole lot. She only had a 3rd grade education, but she was a person that when she made up her mind to do something, she made it happen. She promised our birth mother, Dorothy Bell Rucker, who's from Gainesville, Georgia, and a motivational speaker and an educator, and my grandmother, Beulah Rucker. They have the Beulah Rucker Museum in Gainesville. She was a motivational speaker and teacher and educator. She spoke with Mary McLeod Bethune and knew Eleanor Roosevelt. And so she promised her that, hey, these boys will never go to bed hungry. They will always have clothes on their back and a roof over their head. And she kept her word. And one of the things that I believe as we look at ourselves, look at our goals and dreams, we must honor ourselves with our words, and that because words have power. And she had a lot of choices of giving us to just anybody, but she didn't. She waited for the right person. And they said that when the two of them met, Dorothy Bell Rucker and Mamie Brown, Mr. Moss, my godfather, said, she looked her in the eyes and she got real close, their nose already about to touch. And she asked, are you gonna take care of my boys? And she said, yes, ma'am, I've never had any children before. She said, you promise never to allow anybody to separate them. She said, yes, ma'am. And then the two of them stood there and looked at each other. And it was very silent. And Mr. Moss said that my birth mother at that time, with tears in her eyes, said, this is the one. I want her to take my boys. And so at that moment, she gave us to Mamie Brown. And when Mama started walking out with us, Mr. Moss said, my birth mother followed close behind, and Mr. Moss opened the door and she got in the car. And then my birth mother came close to the window, said, you swear you will take care of them? And she said, I swear. And she kissed us that one last time. And she said, as she hit the side of the car, "Go, Mr. Moss, go now." And he said he drove off slowly. And Mama, she leaned back and she looked at us and started rocking. And she just said, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus."
It's a powerful story.
How many of you like to learn how to improve your presentation skills? Raise your hand. We're going to do a webinar that will walk you through a process and teach you how to tell your story so you can speak in your community on a volunteer basis and be able to make a difference. How many of you like to make a difference with your story? Raise your hands. Very good. We will show you how to do this. I've been doing this now for 40 years. I love and admire Eric Worre for who he is to me as a friend, but the passion that he has in giving you the tools that you need, not just the mindset, but the skill set of what it takes to build a strong multi-level marketing business. I can tell you, based upon my experience, and he's not paying me to be here. He's got a blue light special going on up in here. This is my friend that I love him. There are few people who can call me and I'll get on a flight and only had 4 hours of sleep to come in and speak. I was very subdued and conservative today, but I love and admire him. But if you're serious about your story, make sure you email me and put in there the 7 story principles. Put that in there, and we will email this to you free at yes@lesbrown.com. I'd like to leave this with you. After leaving Zig's memorial yesterday, who was a great man, who contributed so much to so many people, I said, God, let me touch and change millions of people's lives like Zig has done. Let me make my mark like he made an incredible mark. Let me touch hearts and minds like he touched me when I first saw him. And I drove many miles, 400 and 500 miles, to see him and Jim Rohn and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and Charlie Tremendous Jones. Let me be an instrument to give people hope, to inspire them to expand their skill set, to encourage them to create collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. God, let me live a life that counts, that means something to people. God, help me to be able to inspire people like Mr. Washington inspired me, like Mike Williams, my mentor for the past 43 years, who saw something in me I could not see in myself, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Please let me live a life that matters. I want to leave this with you. This stage of my life, my goal is to train 100,000 speakers who will have one message: hope, skill set, and collaborative relationships that will change how people think, how they feel, and how they act. 100,000 people outside of religion and outside of politics, both of which I believe polarize and divide people. 100,000 ordinary people who want to live an extraordinary life. God, give me the stamina and the vision to use my gift that you have given me to work with people who are hungry to make their lives count. I want to leave this with you that my mother used to love to say to me when she was in pain. Leslie, yes ma'am, come in here. Yes ma'am, mama. What is it, baby? Say that thing for me, boy. That makes me feel good. Yes ma'am, mama. My mother's dream was to raise 7 children she didn't have, to make sure we had a roof over our head and food on the table. And she never failed. We never went to sleep hungry. She's a hard worker and she had faith. I remember the first home I bought her in, this home she saw. I said, Mama, how you like this? She said, if I lived in something like that, I would feel like Mrs. Rockefeller. She didn't know I had planned to get that home for her. I purchased the home and I said, Mama, I think I know the people who live there. You do? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, I'm gonna stop in and say hello. And I drove there and I opened the door. She got out, and Mama at that time, around 76, she held my arm and we were walking toward the house. She looked at how beautiful this house was. She said, Leslie, you sure you know these people? Yes, ma'am, Mama, I do. And we got to the door, and I couldn't hold it anymore. I reached in my pocket, I took the key out, and I put it in the door. I said, Mrs. Rockefeller, this is your home. She said, Leslie, what are you talking about? I said, Mama, I bought this for you. I pushed the door open. She stuck her head in the door. She said, anybody home? I said, no, Mama. Nobody's here. This is yours. It's fully furnished. Multi-level marketing made that happen. This is going to happen for you. It's already happened for some of you. Mama has since passed. She was born on November the 6th, just like Zig. I remember her walking around the house looking and said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And Leslie, you were such a problem kid. You were so crazy. I said, I know, Mama, but I'm rich now. I dedicate this to the dream in you. Say that thing for me, boy. Yes, ma'am. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it. If all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famish, or gulf, sickness or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you'll get it. This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's Baby Boy. God bless you. God bless your dream. God bless America. Thank you so very much.